Mario Kart World is the biggest shakeup to the series by far. This game plays incredibly differently from past entries, with so many new strategies and techniques, and today we're going to be going over all of them to help you win. There are a lot of things that this game does not tell you. We'll be going over tips and tricks like how to throw your items sideways from your cart, plenty of speed comparisons of all the new techniques, the entirely reworked item system, and so much more. This video is made to help you improve at the game, starting off with general gameplay tips, and then going into this game's different modes as the strategies are completely different. Hope you enjoy, let's begin. For starters, smart steering is on by default, so you're going to want to turn that off. My biggest tip for the character and cart selection process is just to try out a bunch of different character and cart combinations. Thanks to all the new mechanics and really different gameplay, there are a ton of new scenarios where the stats impact how you drive. So try a bunch of combinations and pick what works for you. Like if you find yourself in the off-road a lot, pick something with the off-road. Or if you find yourself front running all the time, increase your top speed to get away from the pack by sacrificing some of your acceleration. Free roam is the perfect spot to drive around, get used to the new stats, try the new mechanics, and I'd highly recommend that to really new players. Now let's get into the different mechanics. Let's start with driving. As with every Mario Kart game, press the A button when Lakitu shows up a 2 in the countdown to get a boost for your start. This works on every start in the game, even rolling starts for intermissions. The more coins you have, the faster you go, and in this game you can now hold 20 coins, however each coin is less impactful. 20 coins is not double as good as 10 coins was in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example, not even close. Because coins are worth less now, it's harder to just chill at max coins for the entire race. When driving, you can use drift to take tighter lines, shaving off parts of the course. Here's a comparison of the angle of your drift versus Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because it's a bit different. In general, when you're driving, you're gonna want to be on the ground. When you're on the ground and holding A, your car is accelerating to help you get up to your top speed. Doing things like bouncing off other players while you're driving stops your momentum, stops you from accelerating, and makes you generally slower. A new change to this game is that you do not stop by letting go of A. Your momentum carries you a lot more, which means you can even hold a drift by not accelerating. This kind of replaces the need for brake drifting, as it allows you to slow down and adjust your angle. If you ever fall off in Mario Kart World, you can also get a boost from Lakitu to help you recover to your top speed by timing up your acceleration press as he's placing you back down. You can also drive on the walls in this game. You can get onto the wall by either doing a charge jump, which we'll cover in a second, or tricking off a ramp onto a wall. This has to be at least at a slight angle, and if you're going parallel to the wall, it's often easier to make sure you latch onto it if you do a side trick in the direction of the wall itself. You also get a boost when getting off the wall. More importantly though, walls open up new paths for when you're racing in this game. You can cut corners by taking the most inside line possible. The best example being this inside banking turn on Sky High Sunday. You can also chain together multiple wall rides. So keep an eye out for structures that are close together, like this section on Whistle Stop Summit. Tricks have a much greater presence in this game than almost any other past Mario Kart entry. You can trick a ton in this game, multiple times in the air, but the general rule of thumbs for tricks is that if you're doing them while touching an object, like going off a ramp or hitting and bouncing off a bounce pad, they will increase your distance and help you go faster and further. To get this boost, you do not have to technically be driving on something. You can just bump into it like this telephone pole on DK Pass. However, there's also a second boost you can get from tricking, and this one takes place after you land. You can tell you get it if your cart shoots out flames from the back. This is different from the boost I was just talking about that moves you further in the middle of the air, which you have to get either from tricking off of the initial ramp or by lightly grazing an object in the middle of the air, because this one obviously only affects you once you land. If you trick initially after going off of a ramp, which again you always should because that helps you get the first boost, then you'll get this second landing boost no problem. If for some reason you don't trick while initially going off of the ramp, then you can do a midair trick and you'll still get the landing boost. However, it doesn't matter how many times you do said midair trick, you could do it once or 100 times, you'll still get the same landing boost. That's not to say it's useless though. If you get hit with an item while airborne, you can do a midair trick to regain some of your momentum. You can also use midair tricks to realign yourself, helping you latch onto walls to ride or land on rails. Speaking of which, let's talk about rail grinding. Rail grinding lets you drive on new parts of the track, and when you're on the rail, these things will whip you around sharp corners. If they turn, you turn, so watch out. In terms of your speed, on a completely straight line, rail grinding is the exact same speed as normal driving. However, you do build up a boost while rail grinding that you get if you jump off the rail. You do have to flip off the rail though to actually get this boost. You can also forward trick on rails, which does give you that trick boost and does speed you up. These comparisons you're seeing though are only for a controlled environment with a flat rail. A lot of times you're gonna have more bumpy rails or banked curve rails as you drive on a top of like telephone wires in the different intermissions of this game. In those cases, you want to time up your tricks so you get the least amount of airtime possible so you can get back on the wire, building up your boost. So how do you get up them? Either you get on them at the start or you do a charge jump. This is a new mechanic where if you do not touch the stick, you can't even be pushing it like a little bit. You have to be in completely neutral straight and then hold the drift button. You start to charge up a jump, and this has the same 3 levels as mini turbos. Now, when you're charging up a jump, this actually slows you down. Also, if you've been paying attention, we generally want to stay on the ground here, so why would you jump? Don't be deceived, the charge jump does have plenty of uses. You can jump over different hazards into question mark blocks above the track to get some coins, although these also shoot out coins, so if a bunch of people in front of you have already hit it, it's probably better to just stay on the ground and pick up the coins that it dropped. Or you can even jump onto the cars in free roam and get some coins that way. As I said, you can also charge jump onto walls or rails. However, it's not always worth it due to the slower nature of the charge jump. It's a lot better to try and find a ramp and trick off it in order to get onto the wall. You can also jump from a rail onto the wall, as doing a sideways rail trick gives you way more momentum than a charge jump, and also you don't have to charge it. In practice, you're going to want to be chaining together these techniques. They're all relatively strong individually, but when used in tandem to open up new parts of the track, like charge jumping onto wall riding to skip this corner here, that is where you're going to get most of your time saved from these mechanics. Let's take to the skies with gliding. Gliding is way different from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's slower, but also a lot heavier. You're not nearly as nimble, but it is way easier to stay in the air. It feels more like a plane than a glider. You can also trick while you're in the air. Side tricks can help you with mid-air positioning to reach different rings, but just doing a trick while you're gliding does not give you a boost. Gliding is really powerful in this game, even though I've been talking about how you kind of want to stay on the ground, just because when you can cut off off-road in this game, it's a game changer. Especially in intermissions, gliding can be extremely powerful. As for driving in water, your kart weight impacts how buoyant you are. If you're on the heavier side, when you land in the water, you'll be able to do a trick as you pop back out. Besides that, the same strategies apply as driving on land. It's slower to spam charge jumps, and you want to be tricking off ramps, or in this case, different waves. You also want to watch out for the direction the water itself is flowing. Waterfalls in this game are no joke, and will move your car a decent amount. Courses like Cheap Cheap Falls also have massive water sections where the water flows in different directions, even on the same part of the track. Obviously, if the water is flowing with you, you will be going faster. If you guys are enjoying this video, hitting the subscribe button seriously helps out a ton. It would help us hit our goal of 300,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate it. With that out of the way, we've covered the main mechanics of how you drive. Next, let's get into a complete guide of all the items. Before talking about specific items, we need to talk about general item tips and tricks. To understand how to most effectively use items in this game, you have to understand the changes this game has made to its general gameplay. There are 24 racers now. If items all behaved the same way we came to know them as, the game would not work. It would be ludicrous. Because of that, there are so many changes here. Everything about the items feels a bit quicker. This is often very helpful. When you get hit with an item, or even run into a car and crash out, you do a little flip, but it does not reset your momentum nearly as much as past games. This can also hurt you though. You have less invincibility time after getting hit by an item. After being hit, the delay before you're allowed to use another item is short too, meaning you can use mushrooms right away to get back up to max speed. Certain throwable items can be aimed in specific directions. All you need to do is look in that direction with the right stick and pretend you're throwing the item forward, so press forward on the analog stick and press the item button. That's all you gotta do. This will feel weird at first because in order to get your thumb to the right stick, you gotta take your finger off the accelerate button. However, because as I mentioned earlier, the momentum carries you, you have a decent few seconds to aim.
And, oh, look out!
Obviously, you'll start slowing down a little bit, but you won't lose a ton of your momentum. So make sure to aim your shots because the momentum carries and you have more time than you think. You also lose every item when you fall off the track. As soon as Lakitu comes to get you, he takes all your items. Another change to items is that they're automatically dragged behind you. That means items that can be used defensively, like shells or bananas, will immediately be destroyed if you get blue shelled. This leads into the first main thing you have to understand about items, which is the coin item. The coin item seems like the most boring item in this game, but it is incredibly important. It can be used defensively to make sure you save other items. For example, if you have a coin item in your first slot and then a defensive item like a green shell or banana in your second slot, you would likely want to keep the coin item in your first slot. This protects your other item until you're ready to use it, so it won't get destroyed by a blue shell, and also the boost steals the item in your first slot, so it protects it from a boo as well. The coin item gives you 2 coins, which is useful, but if you're in first place, it's often a lot better to just keep the coin item, as you also can't get 2 coins at once. So if you have the coin item in your first slot, you're guaranteed to get a defensive item in your second slot, which again is more powerful because then you can choose when to trail it out behind you. In almost every past Mario Kart game, the most important item has been the lightning item. In World, lightning has been nerfed heavily as you get bigger way faster. This makes sense because there's 24 racers in the game. Having an item that globally affects everyone in front of you is extremely powerful. The lightning is now basically just used to reset people's items, as you still lose your items when you get shocked. Because of that, it's still incredibly powerful because it's global and impacts everyone. The Kamek item is another new global item, but this time it impacts you as well. It spawns a bunch of random obstacles on the track, and it's just good to keep an eye out if you see a bunch of people are suddenly racing as like a Goomba or a charging Chuck. That likely means someone in front of you has used a Kamek and there's about to be a bunch of enemies on the track even if you can't see them. Speaking of new items, let's talk about the feather. The feather gives you a massive jump, bigger than any charge jump you can get. This can be used to dodge stuff like red shells, but also cut off tons of off-road and parts of the track. The feather is a really powerful item because gaining elevation is great in this game to get you to alternate paths. The boomerang is really good at the start. If you get a boomerang out of one of your first item boxes, you can take out like 5 people with the limited throws you get because everyone's gonna be all bunched up. The hammer is a new item that throws in an arc, and my biggest tip with this item is that you want to be using it while you're driving at kind of an angle. That way the hammers don't all land in a straight line and kind of curve and take up more of the track and have a better chance of hitting your opponents. Next, let's talk about mushrooms. Because Mario Kart World does have a lot of straight line sections, when there is off-road you can cut with a mushroom, it's incredibly important. Mushrooms are obviously great to get yourself up to max speed if you spin out, but other than that, no matter how tempting it might be to use a mushroom on a straightaway, it's often a lot better to save it to cut off corners. You can also use mushroom boosts by running into the people, dragging them, or rotating around if they have 3 of them. It's a lot easier in this game to dodge a blue shell with a mushroom than past entries. As long as you do it when the blue shell is coming down to hit you'll dodge it. The feather cannot dodge blue shells, and the Yoshi's food item also cannot dodge blue shells, despite the fact that it gives you a mushroom type boost. Speaking of the food actually has different levels. Depending on how much food you get a different level boost. There's 3 different levels here, and the 3rd level is even better than a mushroom. Because of that, these are occasionally worth snagging when you're in first place. Theoretically, they're often out of the way and will also leave you defenseless, but if you get one that gives you a high boost, the corner cuts can be really powerful. Bombs go flying in this game. I feel like they bounce a lot more than in past entries, so be on the lookout for that. And the 2 new coin items can be extremely powerful, those being the golden shell and the coin box. Because we're now operating under a 20 coin max, anything that allows you to get a bunch of coins in quick succession like this can really give you a leg up on most of the competition. Conversely, if there are a bunch of people right behind you, you might not want to use your coin box as it'll drop a bunch of coins for everyone to grab. If someone else gets one of these items, it is often worth committing to be the first person there to get all of those coins if you think you can beat everyone else out to them, because again, it's super powerful to get this many coins this quickly. It's specifically important to recognize these items when you see them out in the wild. For example, if you see a bunch of pairs of like 2 coins right next to each other, that means someone has been using a coin box and it's about to break open, leaving a bunch of coins all piled up. Next, let's get into specific gameplay tips and then all the tips for different modes. When you're offline, you can dodge a blue shell and lightning even at the same time with the rewind function. And obviously you can't use rewind in online, but if you're offline, this can be useful. Most game modes you're gonna play as well also have intermissions, so it's really important to understand the intricacies of driving between different courses. There are small little caravans that'll dispense mushrooms in a line. If you can chain a bunch of these together, it'll give you a massive massive boost. There are barrel cars that'll shoot you forward, bomb cars that'll explode you, and ramp cars that'll give you a boost, but the glider truck is by far the most powerful car you can find in this game. If you see a glider truck, especially if there are any turns coming up, you gotta take it because you could just fly straight over the turns. In intermissions, watch out for power lines as well. Occasionally, these will take a tighter line than you can normally achieve just by driving straight, and in that case, it's almost always worth it to try and get on them. Check the mini-map here too for corners to cut. Because the intermissions are more straightforward, you gotta make up time somehow. Cutting corners here is essential, and it's also very powerful to draft while you're in intermissions as well. By staying a little bit behind someone, you speed up and pass them. If you see someone trying to draft off you, start wiggling around, don't give them that boost. For Grand Prix, it's critical to pay attention to the lap counts because it is not a traditional structure, and the end of the race can really sneak up on you, especially for newer players. Points are also really weird now because of 24 racers in Grand Prix. For example, there is zero difference between finishing in 4th and finishing in 5th. This can genuinely impact how you race. If you're in 5th, it's the end of the race and maybe you just have a red shell, throwing it forward and passing whoever's in front of you doesn't benefit you at all, so you're likely going to want to hold it for defense. This is the same thing for 6th and 7th place and 8th and 9th place. Coins also reset every single race in a Grand Prix, so you want to build up to 20 as fast as you can. Lastly, in Grand Prix, rivals are back in a big way. Every Mario Kart game will have specific rivals, like different characters who are really good at Grand Prix, but in this game they feel extremely powerful. It's oftentimes just going to be a race against you, whoever else you're playing with, and then like the one CPU Nintendo decided to make cracked at this specific Grand Prix. Knockout Tour is an absolute blast and really shakes up how you play. The elimination aspect of it changes a ton of strategies. For example, you're not going to want to worry about front running for the first couple laps. As long as you're not in the very back, you can just focus on getting items and coins, and then once first place gets hit with like a blue shell or something, you'll have better items and can make your move. This is for online only though. In offline, you need to place in like first for pretty much every checkpoint to have a chance at getting 3 stars. For online though, you're just trying to win at the end, so you don't need to be first going through past checkpoints. Item distribution also changes per knockout round. If you made it to the last round where there's only 4 players, you could be in 4th place and get gold mushrooms and like triple shells. Considering the last round of every knockout tour is on an actual Mario Kart course, there's likely going to be a patch of off-road right at the end that you can cut in and take. If you get a golden mushroom in 4th, you can very easily win the race with that. The maps are also super important in knockout mode. Unlike Grand Prix that has inconsistent maps, which sometimes show the intermissions and the entire course you're racing on, but then sometimes also just zoom into the specific lap you're on, Knockout Tour maps are always just the section you're on and change as soon as you cross into the next one. Also, the end of a section sneaking up on you on Knockout Tour can literally ruin your race. So checking the map is more important in this mode than probably any other mode, so you know when to get aggressive with your driving and try and pass people. The next mode I want to talk about is time trials, and this is going to be super brief. I am not a time trials expert. However, the best way to get better at time trials is just by watching the people who are the best at it. Watching how they drive, seeing what they do, what routes they take, what carts they use, that is the best way to improve at time trials. That's really the only tip I'm giving. There are likely even more incredibly in-depth strategies for time trials, like specific techniques, that I didn't cover in this video because doing a full time trial guide is an entirely separate project. This is mainly just for normal Mario Kart races, but the biggest tip I can give for time trials is just watch the damn records, man. Those people are the best in the world for a reason, and that's how you can improve and at least try to maybe sniff their level. At least that's what I do when I try time trials. The last mode we gotta talk about is free roam. Yes, we have tips and tricks and strategies for free roam. First thing is, the mini-map here is sick. It's no longer like the grayed out silhouette mini-map of the whole layout. Instead, it's more like a radar showing your close proximity. Because of this, it can be super useful to find P-switches, question mark panels, and the Peach medallions that you might not be able to see on your screen, but you can see from the minimap aerial view. Once you've found the P-switches, here are some general tips to help you complete them. Use the rewind feature religiously. You can use the rewind feature if you miss a gate that you need, or a coin just by a little bit, and by holding down accelerate while you use the rewind feature, you keep some of your momentum when you're in control of your kart again. Next, in some missions, you have to do a 180. If you hold A and B, you will perform a spin turn. This is faster than a normal just tight drift to turn around, and is also really powerful in battle mode. Sometimes it's quicker to just smack into a wall though and reorient yourself that way. No, I'm genuinely serious. In the missions, if you can't find the last blue coin, or you're getting close to the time limit, you can use screenshot mode to pause the timer and then look around that way. You can also bring items into challenges, so if you're having trouble with a certain P-switch, go find a mushroom or a feather. Make sure to use it during the P-switch though, as they're gone after you complete the challenge. Some missions here are very hard, specifically missions missions that have the word special in all caps, those ones are quite difficult. So my biggest and best tip for those is that if you're stuck on a P-switch mission, pause your free roam session and change your character and cart to something that better fits the situation. For example, if you have to go in the off-road, give yourself a better off-road cart. If you have to do a bunch of super nimble wall rides, go for a lighter character and a smaller cart. There were a couple times where I tried like the same mission 10 times in a row, just barely missing out on the time limit, and then I switched the cart combination to something more statistically appropriate and beat it with seconds to spare. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the comparisons and everything we did for this video. I'll put a pinned comment if there's any other crazy discoveries or fast tactics that I feel like should be included here, and make sure to let us know anything you found in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you click the one on screen right now to hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this game, kind of like my full first impressions and thoughts on the title.